Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shahrukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
Okay, let's get going, guys. Let's start our low energy show. This is like, you know, like back in the day, they used to have like jazz hour on the radio, like at midnight. I see
like,
that.
Asim, your voice already sounds like, you know, there's this podcast to play when you want to sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep with some exactly. I can't remember the name. Sleep with me
Sleep
or something.
Up. And I sleep with me. This must be something else. Dude. You're confusing.
No, it does mean something else, but it's called Sleep with Me because the guy's voice is like very, very calming and slow. You know, it already sounds like that.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently I sound like Karan Johar, so it's one or the other. Man. we need to decide what my voice sounds like. Let's get going now. What are we talking about this episode? Where Sujo, you saw Chhichore. We both saw Dream Girl, which is kind of the release of this week. There's a few trailers that came out. Zoya Factor and Sky is Pink, and Amrita, you saw Mom on which streaming platform is that? It's Balaji.
Yes, AltBalaji.
AltBalaji, yeah. And then our main review, chosen by the public, is Fan. So that's going to be our main review. So let's get going. Sujoy, man, what did you think of Chhichore? Was this thing like people in the theater? Because it's kind of like a slow buzz kind of movie, right? It's kind of going word of mouth.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it because it's very rare for an Indian movie to play a second week in London, and it was still quite full, which is very encouraging, and the public seems to really like it. What I didn't understand was, you know, the buzz around this movie. It almost feels like it came and it went, but it's still here. Because it's surprising that, you know, Nitesh Tiwari, who directed Dangal, one of the biggest movies ever in Indian cinema in terms of box office numbers, has got the next release of his is almost like, I don't know, the marketing around it was totally lackluster, and even the movie feels like a rehash of things that we have seen before. It's like Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar meets Three Idiots meets Student of the Year meets, all of that. And he kind of directs, you know, his expertise so far has been in directing, you know, sports action, and he does that really well. But the whole emotional hook about in this movie just felt very much disconnected with me. I mean, I've lived this world. They talk about, you know, what matters in life is not just, you know, pass or fail or you know, getting through engineering colleges and all that. And what matters is the journey and that how much effort you put in and all of that. And I've lived through that whole engineering life, and it's trying to tap into that nostalgic factor and, you know, appeal. The target audience is obviously the hundreds and thousands of engineering people in India and abroad from Indian engineering colleges. And it's quite evident that they're trying to appeal to those people, and I mean, it's nothing original, nothing new, but it's an okay movie while it lasts. I hope this, you know, does good business, because everybody seems to be quite earnest about their effort that they've put in. But I don't know what exactly to feel about this movie other than, you know, all of that. But yeah, another thing is that we pointed out during watching the trailers is the receding hairline that everybody has and the bad makeup, and it's really, really distracting. Yeah. That's all. What I've got to say about Chhichore.
The makeup is bad.
How was Sushant and Shraddha and the rest of the cast?
Sushant was actually quite good when he's in the younger role, but it's quite unbelievable to see him play like an undergrad student. With the aged makeup, it almost feels like he's like the beard is so hardly stuck on his face that he can barely move. So it's really trying hard to cry, but he can't. It's really almost comical.
But what is it like? Like I still like I've listened. Like, I've heard good word of mouth. It's making decent money. Everybody that I know is positive about it. You just gave it a kind of a good review. I still don't get why I should watch it though. Like, can you give me a reason why I should watch this movie?
No, I can't.
You don't want to bear that responsibility.
No, I mean, you'll come and bite me in the ass if I do. I mean, it's okay. Like, everybody's just playing what they are kind of good at doing. Like, Sushant is playing that, whatever he does, and Shraddha is just there. What's the other guy's name? The Varun Sharma. He's playing the same old horned up small town guy, and yeah, it's just there. Like, nobody is really standing out, right? I can't I can't really say like a performance that was like a standout performance from this entire cast.
Yeah, it just sounds like a low stakes evening out for the family.
So perfect to watch it streaming or something like that. Like,
yeah, but if you see,
I guess it helps if I think that what I said was like it helps if you have lived that life and you feel very nostalgic about those good old days in engineering when we used to roam around in undies and curse at each other and throw water at each other and all of that. And
yeah, none of these things I did.
Yeah. I mean, I did, and I want to forget about it.
Yeah, I would assume you want to forget about walking around in chaddis and throwing water at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Amrita, was this part of your life too? Were you also walking around in chaddis?
Thank you, but I stayed in like a nice little apartment with my best friend.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Like, when Three Idiots came and how it almost revolutionized the engineering college movie, because before that it was all about Archie's comics kind of colleges by, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai and all that. And this movie is trying to say like, we are going to reinvent whatever that aesthetic is, and we are going to introduce masturbation jokes into it, It's kind of that. So it doesn't appeal to me at all.
Is that why you sent that? Is that viral marketing for the movie, for that university letter that came out that students should stop masturbating in the shower?
Oh, is it? I don't know.
maybe this is all part of like Chhichore's marketing campaign.
What are you even reading? Like, I don't even know.
It was on Twitter everywhere. Like, and somebody sent me on WhatsApp as well, like my engineering group, WhatsApp group, obviously. So it was basically, I don't know if it's real or fake, but obviously it must be fake.
Why? Obviously, it's not obvious to me at all, man. These are horny college Indian students.
IIT Roorkee notice board in the one of the students' hostel was basically saying not to masturbate in the bathrooms because it was clogging in all the pipes.
I don't think that's how semen works, you guys. I think the engineering college needs biology lessons.
Amongst other lessons as well, but hey.
Yeah. Amrita, I shall do you the favor by not sending you that letter.
Thank you very much.
Moving on.
Yeah, so
भैया माता सीता तो कहीं दिखाई नहीं दे रही। सीते माते प्रभु प्रभु आप आए गए। सीता माता की हमारी अम्मा ने कितने बकवास करके एक लड़का पैदा करो और तुम सीता बन जाते हो, राधा बन जाते हो। तुम्हें मालूम नहीं है हम पे कितना लोन है?
आप भी तो ब्लड बैंक छोड़कर हर एक बैंक से लोन ले रखो।
जब आए तेरी याद मुड़ के we both saw Dreamgirl, right? What did you think of Dreamgirl, man? Because I wrote like a whole ass thread about it, and honestly, I thought I was going crazy. Like everybody was so positive about this movie on Twitter. Amrita, were you getting the same vibes on your end, or was it just me because I felt like targeted?
Oh, because the first few reviews were overwhelmingly positive, and then yours were, but it was all from like B-list reviewers and stuff.
Yeah.
So yours was the first mixed review that I got, and then after that I began seeing like a few more mixed reviews and stuff. I don't think anybody's been. Well, I think Sucharita from Film Companion has been the strongest negative review that I've gotten, that I've seen from this. But apart from that, most people, I think it's like a mix between like mixed to positive reviews.
Yeah, I was surprised because I had so many issues with this movie that were just popping up, and I was like, is nobody seeing it?
This is my theory, right? So the writers of this movie, Nirman D. Singh, Niket Pandey, and Raj Chandelier. So they're sort of, if you look at their career before this, all they've done is write for the Kapil Sharma show. And the Kapil Sharma show does not connect to me at all. So there's the whole idea of their comedy is just chutkula, 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 drag act, chutkula, chutkula, and there is no...
they have the drag act in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so they do that. And then there is no... we talked about this when we watched that screening, right? There is no acknowledgement of the sexuality behind the whole drag thing that is going. The whole the masculinity thing. They raise the issue of masculinity and what it means in terms of what Ayushman thinks he is doing, and also the sexuality of the woman character in that movie as well. So all of that is completely out of the scope of the universe that these writers have created before Dreamgirl, and that continues within Dreamgirl. And probably the audience that is really lapping it up is probably, I would say, the same audience who loves the Kapil Sharma show, which is undoubtedly one of the most popular TV shows on Indian television. But it does not connect with us.
Right. Yeah. No, I wasn't even aware when I was watching the movie, because when we talked about the trailer, we didn't know who this writer was and where they came from. Right. Yeah. And but now what you're telling me makes a lot of sense, actually, because what I was saying is like, it feels like like the way it's written, it's like the worst "What's up, uncle" jokes mixed in with like a stand-up comedy special or something like that, and like punched up jokes forced into it as much as they can. And I mean, they are funny. It is a funny movie, I would say, right? I mean, unless, if you can tolerate all the sexism and all the, homophobia and, stiff
bigotry and Islamophobia and everything.
Stiff gender roles and, but that's also, I imagine, part of a comedy circus. Again, I don't watch it, but I imagine that's the kind of, things they go for. Very, very broad comedy.
So absolutely.
I think if you can watch that kind of comedy and you enjoy it, you will probably have fun with Dreamgirl. But for me, the longer the movie was going on for, the other aspects just kind of, the comedy wasn't working for me, because all of the other aspects, they were either too blatant or like they weren't getting any resolution. There was no real conflict either. Like, I would have hoped at the end, like, they would speak about gender roles or, love transcending gender. For example, like 5 of the characters fall in love with Ayushman Khurana being Pooja on this sex line. So I would say out of the 5, maybe one could have said something like, oh, even if Pooja is a guy, I still love her or something like that. But, even that point was never raised. Lesbians are only lesbians because they've been dumped by men and then they smoke and they have heavy voices. So a lot of those stereotypes are in there. There's 2 boys, like they're drinking together and then the one cop says, oh, aajkal to ladke bhi na, and that's the kind of level of humor. And the longer it goes on, it's like, oh my God, man, what is this? Like, it's really infuriating. And it's like Ayushman, he's a great performer, but I'm like, we were applauding his script sense. We were applauding like how he's, trying to do something different in cinema. And like, why would he then pick this role? Like, that part I don't understand.
I mean, at the surface, this had the promise of being totally different and could have been treated with more sophistication and nuance, at the same time being funny. But obviously, these set of writers are not catering to that. They are totally speaking to a different kind of audience, and all they are happy to do is with throwing chutkulas at 80 miles per hour and landing. If one doesn't land, then we have one, the next one coming straight after. And when you are having a conversation and you are just even if you are having a really bland conversation, if someone throws in a punchline and everybody gets a chuckle, and that's kind of successful as far as comedy goes, and they are going for that kind of a humor. But once you start realizing all these issues that this movie has, and you totally get dissociated, and once you're kind of not feeling the movie, the humor doesn't work at all for us.
And for me, it's also, and I think we're going to be talking about that in Fan a little bit too. It's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of small town comedies, for me at least. And there's been, like, we've been talking about it, there's been so many of these, right? It started with Band Baja Barat to a certain degree, and it's like every year we'll get like tons and tons of these now. And this one, just, the town felt so claustrophobic to me. I did not want to be part of this community. I don't want to live where these guys live. It's like all frustrated men. There's, no place for women there.
It's also kind of scary, right? Because all these 5 men and 1 woman who fell in love with the idea of Pooja by just talking to her. What exactly were they talking to fall in love with this girl? And the whole idea of falling in love with someone just through some conversation without having ever needed the need to see her face or meet in person is just, and they all have smartphones at this day and age. So it's not a movie set in the past. So at this day and age, if you're trying to narrate a story of these people who are leading such sad lives, it's more sad than, I don't know how comedy plays a part in narrating this story.
But it's also because, like, they also then shame the sex workers, right? And clearly these guys are calling a sex line, right? So suddenly they take like this ownership of the Pooja character, like, you have to meet me, you have to marry me, I'm just gonna marry you. And it's like, dude, where was this kind of part of the contract that this was supposed to happen? Like, the line between a call-in
client.
Call-in client, prostitute, and all. It's like all blurred together. It just makes no sense whatsoever. It's really an infuriating movie, and the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the angrier I get, and the angrier I get how many people are giving it a pass just because Ayushman Khurana is in it. And it's fine to like an actor and, the movies he's done, but you have to look at the broader message that the movie is bringing, and it's not good, guys. It's not good. I mean, Amrita, you were also looking forward to this, right?
Yeah, like I knew it was going. So this is what I said, the last time, that when I first heard about this movie, I thought it was going to be a mess. But then I saw the trailer and I was like, no, it's going to be funny. It's going to be good. And again, like you said, it's an Ayushman Khurana movie, so you feel like you can give him the benefit of the doubt. But it's just very sad that this is how it turned out.
Yeah.
See, I did tell you about the brand Balaji, and it's confusing, how it plays out. And even though it's an Ayushman movie, I did not have any faith in the whole brand of Balaji. And I guess I told you so.
Go ahead.
Sorry, did you have more to say?
No, I was going to say, I'm sure it's kind of that comedy circus vibe where you can probably watch it with your family in a way, right? Because, our families are usually okay with sexism and patriarchy.
Oh, and there is underlined sound effects with every comedy scene. There's toying and all those. And every time the lesbian woman appears, there is fire shots being... revolvers being shot, and that's the kind of comedy. If you are into that, then go for it.
Yeah. Amrita, you were saying something?
No, I was just saying that since we're talking about Balaji, this tees me up perfectly for Mission Over Mars.
पूरे देश की निगाहें इस वक्त आईएसए पर टिकी हुई हैं। क्या भारत चाइना को स्पेस रेस में पछाड़ पाएगा? क्या आईएसए 130 करोड़ भारतीयों के सपनों को पूरा कर पाएगा?
चांद तक के रेस में हम चाइना से हार चुके, लेकिन इस बार रेस मार्स की है।
इस क्वार्टर हमारा डिवीजन सिर्फ ऑर्बिटर मिशन टू मार्स पे काम करेगा।
मिशन टू मार्स नहीं, मिशन ओवर मार्स। मॉम तो कभी निराश नहीं करती।
First, let's talk a bit about the streaming platform that you signed up, because I'm quite interested in how this whole, what this was, because you were like, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, because last time when we were talking to Sushant, he was talking about their platform, and he said it was basically very schizophrenic because half of it, is really progressive, and then half of it is really weird. And I was like, well, I'm gonna I was sort of interested in it then. I was just like, well, how weird can it be? And then Anupama Chopra did a interview with Ekta Kapoor and Sakshi Tanwar, who is this very old Balaji hand from way back in the day. And the two of them were talking about their new series that was debuting last week called Mission Over Mars, which is the same story it's rooted in the same story as Mission Mangal, the Akshay Kumar, Vidya Balan movie that came out a few weeks ago. So, but the way that Ekta was talking about it, and Ekta was also talking about her business and what she's trying to achieve with her streaming platform, and she's talked about it before also. She's actually done 2 interviews with Anupama, and when she's talking about all these things. And it sounded really interesting because she seemed to have a very clear idea of what she was trying to put out content-wise. And she was very clear about what the series is going to be, which was primarily the story of the women who made that mission possible, as compared to, say, Mission Mangal, which was just Akshay Kumar and then his flunkies. So I decided to check out her platform, and it's super cheap. It's 300 rupees for a year, and if you pay by certain digital methods, you can get up to 100% of it back. So you can literally sign up for free if you have certain digital payment methods enabled. Anyway, so it's true what Sujan said. There are some shows in there that are totally pornographic, and I think they're meant to be that way. It's erotic thriller. There's some cop shows that look hilarious to me. I haven't seen any of them yet. One of them stars Bipasha Basu's husband, whose name I'm blanking on. And there's a lot of stuff that basically what she's doing is she's using her resources as a TV producer to create these web series. So she just takes actors from her acting stable and puts them in these web series, and they just churn out these series, which are usually between 10 to 15 episodes a season. And so she just, shoots with whatever resources she has. So she's basically maximizing her resources, which is really smart. And she was saying all these numbers. She has like a 107 shows in development. She launched 30 shows last year, 30 shows this year. It's insane. Like, it's a proper factory. Like Ram Gopal Verma was talking about the factory. This is a proper factory. So anyway, I booted up Mission Over Mars, and I haven't seen the whole thing. I've only seen the first 5 episodes or so because it's released in 2 batches, and I haven't seen the second batch. But I will at some point because it's pretty competently made. It kind of has a Chuck Day vibe to it because it's these scientists who are dealing with a bureaucracy and a government that really doesn't understand what they're trying to achieve and tries to sabotage them or mock them or undermine them at every step. And it's primarily the story of these 4 women. And that's Sakshi Tanwar, who's playing the super competent scientist boss lady who's not been able to, like, she's a very type A personality, and that bleeds over to her home life. And obviously her son can't handle just how, like, in his face she is all the time. So she has that going on. And then there's a scientist who is trying to find redemption, and that's Mona Singh, who's probably the most annoying part of the series because she's incredibly hysterical. Yeah, she's very hysterical. But you know what? That might be just me because I can't stand hysterical people. So it just might be me. Like, I can't stand that personality type.
I think this is the first time I'm hearing of Mona Singh since Jassi. So I thought she would be good, but that's really bad to know.
No, she's not. It's an interesting character because she's a woman who's very ambitious, and she's sort of conflicted about the fact that she's ambitious, but also she is ambitious. She's been on this track since she was a little girl, and she doesn't understand why she needs to give that up. And she's divorced, and her ex-husband works with her, and then she has a little daughter, and her daughter completely understands who her mom is. Like, her mom is never going to be the kind of mom that arranges a birthday party or is going to be a conventional mom. And that's really nice, because sometimes all we see are like kids who don't understand why their parents have ambition or are busy all the time. But honestly, I grew up with a workaholic father and a mother who believed in like free range parenting. And I absolutely got it. Like, my parents had lives. I was like, fine, like, you do you. So it's really nice to see that kind of dynamic once in a while. And then there's, I think her name is Nidhi Singh, who plays a scientist who is obsessed by astrology, which sounds really stupid, but she's kind of charming. And there is Palomi Ghosh, who
was in that character, right?
Yeah, I think that's her.
Yeah.
And she plays somebody who's, I think she's supposed to be on the spectrum, but basically she's, you can never tell whether Hindi cinema understands the difference between like genius and someone who's on the spectrum, because usually their short code for somebody who's a genius is, here's this person who behaves like they're on the spectrum. So I don't know which is which. Maybe that they explore that later on in the series. I don't know, but it's an interesting cast of characters, and they're good actors. I mean, they're very believable as the characters they portray. And I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how the rest of the season plays out.
The $1 million question, however, is how is the Modi cameo?
So we haven't gotten up to there yet. In the first half of the series, they keep showing in the title scenes, they show like the Modi character, and it's hilarious. Like he's that guy that places dupe, I think, on various things. It basically looks like Modi if Modi had been like slightly squeezed a little bit. So it's hilarious.
It's from all the hugging that Putin and Trump did to Modi.
I'm glad I'm leaving all the Modi jokes to you guys. So, did you say 300 rupees a month or a year?
A year.
That's insane. That's like 3.5 pounds. Like you can't even miss. Like you know,
and you can get it for free if you sign up through some digital payments.
God.
Yeah.
And you can. Is this India only, or you can get it? Does anybody know? Sujay, have you looked into it?
I tried streaming it here, but no, it won't work.
Okay. So, that makes sense. By the way, these shows, are they then also showing on TV, or is it actually an exclusive for the streaming?
I think it's platform only, no?
So I don't watch TV, so I don't know.
Right.
No, like the Balaji soft porn stuff, it's never going to come on Indian TV anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. No, I think it probably makes sense from what you were saying about maximizing your resources. But if it's tough if you. Then again, it's free. I was gonna say it's tough when you have a new platform that's for these actors. Not a lot of people can see it. But for 3.5 pounds a year, and you even get it refunded, like that's insane. Everybody should just download it at that point, right?
I mean, I don't see what is the drawback in that. It's like $300. That's probably what you pay for a coffee in like Starbucks or something in India. So for that, you get content for a year, and if it sucks, then you don't watch it.
No, I was just wondering this because I was watching this show on Hulu, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, the remake of the adaptation of the movie, and I love it. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. And nobody has Hulu, so I can talk about it with nobody, and Mindy Kaling's shows usually don't get a lot of critical praise. So it's just like this awesome show that nobody's talked about, can watch, nobody figures out how they can watch it, and it's just kind of sitting there. And I just feel that's kind of a shame, especially when there's so much content coming, right? Every week there's new exclusives coming. Like we talked about Typewriter, which was a Netflix exclusive. 3 weeks later, nobody even remembers Typewriter came out, right? So it's like we've already moved on. Next week, Family Man is coming on Amazon Prime, which we were supposed to review this episode, but it didn't happen because the screeners didn't work. But I did interview the filmmakers, Raj from Raj and DK. It's pretty cool interview, and I'll be posting it on the U Podcast Bollywood edition website, and I'll also add it to the show notes, so check it out. But that's a question I asked them, is like, isn't this way too much content? And don't you feel like, these platforms should maybe do a better job of marketing them, or like pushing it more to audiences, or having better release windows, or, having theatrical releases with streaming exclusives or something like that? And I mean, Raj's opinion was that, it is a temporary issue, but it is an issue. So yeah, it's tough, but yeah, £3. I mean, I can't even come up with a good argument there. Like it's so cheap.
And even data is so cheap in India. Like 4G data is so easily accessible. So everybody's like, and I think Netflix, India is the only market where Netflix has released a mobile-only plan. So it's you can stream only on your mobile phones or your tablets that have a 4G connection, and it would stream at a lower quality, obviously, but it's going to be much cheaper subscription.
Wow. So I mean, you're Amrita, you're kind of enjoying Mom, and then you'll probably finish it. That's you would recommend it, yeah?
Yes, I think it's like, it really surprised me, the quality of it. Like when you watch it. Like sometimes I'll be honest, I'm a snob. I was expecting something of the kind. I haven't seen Indian TV in a very long time, but I was expecting something like Kahani Ghar Ghar Ki or Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, like that level of production values, basically. But this is a very well-made, it's a quality product. Like you can see the amount of effort and money that has gone into the making of this series, and it pays off as well. It's not trashy or cheap or anything, any of those things.
So they're not zooming into nostrils and then panning around and reaction shot, that kind of thing.
I would just say, like, the only thing is that there are certain like drama beats. You like when you watch a lot of American TV, and I think Ekta was basically trying to adapt the American model, and she's trying to do that with her streaming platform. But there's a beat to those drama episodes, like you can tell, like if it's like a 40-minute episode, then in the first 10 minutes this will happen, in the second 10 minutes this will happen, like that. And the beats are slightly off.
Right.
Because there are certain scenes that come up, and like the certain punchlines that come up, and you're like, well, that's how you end this episode. Like it shouldn't be coming in the middle of the episode. It should be coming like the naming of the mission, like where one of them comes up with the name, like MOM, mom. Like that should have been the end of episode 1 rather than coming up in the middle of the episode.
Right.
But these are things that I pay attention to because I pay attention to the writing. But I feel like if you're a lay person and you're watching something that is that you want to connect to, that will entertain you, then this shouldn't bother you.
And honestly, I think the point you're raising, we were very forgiving of that in Made in Heaven, when we were watching that, and it also had some beats that were off and like a voiceover that didn't work. So I think if we give that we give that space to writers that we like, we should also give that grace to, Balaji in a way, if they are doing something that's kind of different and they're not, washing the laptop in the sink or whatever that gif was or that meme was. I really want to hear your thoughts on the Zoya Factor trailer, Amrita.
Okay. I feel like the trailer was very thanda.
Yeah.
Like, am I the only one? Like,
no, I must say, I watched it and we put it on the list to discuss, and I can't recall anything of the trailer. Like, I know Sonam is in there and she's doing her khoobsurat thing, and then Dulquer is in there with a 6-pack. And then I also know that it's an autobiography of Anushka Sharma without it being with Anushka Sharma, which immediately doesn't interest me at all.
Wait, what? Who told you it was Anushka Sharma?
No, this is me hoping, because, it's like about this woman that, gets all the blame and all the success if the team does well. And she's also with the captain. So I was like, yeah, Anushka Sharma. But then you get Sonam instead of Anushka Sharma. So I was like, what the hell, man? And the other thing is also what I find funny, is that usually there's so much marketing and, Sonam just hypes up her things. And somewhere it feels it's lacking this time. Like something's not working. I don't know if it's Sonam like kind of pulling back, or it's not like she's like, she made this movie and I don't know. I'm not feeling the excitement from her this time.
Yeah, like everything about it is slightly off, which is funny because this movie, so this movie is based on a book called The Zoya Factor as well. And I can't remember the name of the woman that wrote it. Anuja Chauhan, I think is her name. And it's been in development ever since it came out. Like Shahrukh wanted to make this movie a long time ago, and then he had the rights and everything. And then it never happened. Then it just cycled its way through Bollywood. Somebody was going to make it. And then finally, the Shetty sisters have made it this time with Sonam. And I thought it was actually, why the promotion isn't as keen as it usually is? Because it's not I don't think it's an Anil Kapoor Films production.
Okay, she didn't produce it herself. She started
So Ria and she didn't produce it. So I think that's why, because it's a Shetty Sisters production. But like I really like Dulquer. I really want to see him, and he's being packaged the Sonam way. So I am really interested in that. And I really had a good time with Khoobsurat, so I'm willing to give Sonam the benefit of the doubt, even if she annoys me for so many reasons. But I don't know. I just feel like I already feel tired, and I've just seen the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, Joy, what did you think of the trailer?
Well, I don't know. I saw before the trailer Foxstar Studios on the logo, so I realized it's a Disney movie. And B, everybody on the TL or on Twitter is talking about Dilker's hair. So that's all that I can get out of the trailer. And the Pepsi song, which is very, very meh.
Yeah, I didn't even bother watching the song after. I'm really not interested. Like, also, cricket doesn't interest me, you know. So it's like nothing of this. Like, I like Dilkar, but like, there's probably other movies I have to watch of his before I watch this, you know. So I don't know.
But yeah, I think we see Sanjay Kapoor playing Sonam Swadar, which is quite interesting.
That was cool. That I thought was kind of cool when I saw it in the trailer. But I don't know why I find it cool, because Sanjay Kapoor is always disappointing on screen. So I was just like happy he got some work.
He was really good in Luck by Chance, no?
I don't even remember him in that. Okay. So yeah, nobody's really that excited about Zoya Akhtar. I was gonna say Zoya Factor. Actually, I was looking at the writer, and she's doing like a lot. She's written lots of books that are kind of turning into projects, right? Like I heard Baaz and Battle for Bittora was also being made.
Yeah. So I think Battle for Bittora is Anil Kapoor Films.
Right. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, Sonam is Sonam, you know. It's going to be Yas queening over our social media for until the movie comes out. So we're going to be seeing lots of magazine covers and lots of stuff. So yeah, I'm scared. I'm not looking forward to it. Anyway.
मैंने बहुत लव स्टोरीज देखी हैं, फिल्मी, वन साइडेड, एपिक, लेकिन मेरी फेवरेट लव स्टोरी जो थोड़ी ट्रैजिक भी है मेरे पैंडा और मूज की है।
यार तुम बड़ी डेंजरस हो इन अ सेक्सी वे। सेक्सी
चौधरी।
Sky is Pink is the other trailer that came out. The movie that made Zaira Wasim quit acting, apparently. And the first thing I thought when I watched the trailer is like I have not seen like a Farhan Akhtar movie in ages, and I'd forgotten how he talks. It's like, you know, ke washing machine mein chiller reh jati hai, you know, taka 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 taka. It's like he has this rhythm of talking. It's like, oh, it's so different from anything else. It was just like, oh yeah, Farhan talks like that.
You know, in the, again quoting Luck by Chance, in the there is a scene there where Saurabh Shukla is talking to him, you know, talking in movies, and he says about the "Tumne mujhe khoobsurat khwab dikhaye" and all of that. It just takes me back to that scene where Farhan is trying to talk like filmy, and yeah, it still hasn't. Saurabh Shukla's acting classes haven't worked yet.
What did you think, Sujoy, of the Sky is Pink trailer?
I don't know what to make of it, but
you said that about everything today. It's like, Dream Girls, I don't know what to think. Chhichore, I don't know what to say.
I'm a very confused guy.
A confused guy.
I mean, I really want this to work because I really want Priyanka to do well in this movie. That's all.
That's all. Amrita, excited for Sky is Pink?
I think it's a movie that sort of appeals to PC's strengths. Like I was telling somebody on Twitter, like, you know, like she has this gear where she's actually very good, but it doesn't come through on a lot of movies. So I think this might be a movie in which she would be like really good, and I'd like to watch it actually.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Margarita with a Straw on like Shonali Bose's previous projects? Ammu, apparently one. No, not even heard of this one. No.
No, I haven't seen Margarita with a Straw. No.
Okay, it's been on my list to watch for ages, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, same.
You need to be in the right mood for this, and even think with Sky is Pink, I think I'm gonna have to be in the right mood to watch a movie about sick children and parents and stuff like that. So I don't know. Although I do find they have like a good vibe together, Priyanka and Farhan. And I think it also shows in the trailer. It looks great the way it's shot, production wise. And it's also apparently shot bilingually, if I'm not mistaken. I read that somewhere. But I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna watch it for sure, and it's getting great reviews. It just had its premiere at Toronto Film Festival. It's gonna have a premiere here at the London Film Festival, which I'm hoping to catch if we can. But it seems to be kind of like a festival crowd kind of movie, right? I don't know. Do you guys know if it's going to have songs? Like, just trying to figure out if it's going to be like a conventional Bollywood movie, or is it like more this kind of artsy movie that just looks better?
Well, apparently the music is scored by Pritam and Gulzar has written the lyrics, so I hope there is a soundtrack.
All I know is that Farhan is apparently not singing in this, so that's an automatic plus.
That's a plus, yeah.
Like, Pritam is not that of a good pal with, Farhan and Nitesh, so that's good.
I'm sure he tried, right?
Yeah. And besides, like, Arijit Singh actually lives, like, in a closet in his office. So, like, every time he comes up with a tune, he just, like, jumps out and is like, "Main gaunga." So,
it's kind of like one of those bring out the gimp situations where it's like Arijit in a leather suit.
I went on the Wikipedia page for Shonali Bose, and the picture she has is she's promoting the DVD release of Amu with Amir Khan in the Gajini haircut.
Oh.
So that's a time capsule moment.
Shall we move on to Fan?
Yes, we should.
कनेक्शन भी ना कमाल की चीज है, बस हो गया तो हो गया. वाईफाई ब्लूटूथ से भी ज्यादा स्ट्रांग है अपना कनेक्शन. उस स्टार नहीं है, दुनिया है मेरी. दूर से तो कच्चे वाले फैंस तालियां बजाते हैं, मैं तो गले लगा के दे गया हूँ उसको ट्रॉफी. जब देखो आर्यन आर्यन आर्यन, लगता क्या है तू आर्यन खन्ना का फैन.
I think we were saying this at the start of it. It's a very recent movie to talk about. Like, it feels almost too early to talk about it. And it also is weird because Shahrukh is kind of on that break that he's in now, right? And there was some rumors that he was going to come back with an action movie with Ali Abbas Zafar, if I'm not mistaken. But then he sent this tweet that nothing is signed until I announce it or something like that, being King Khan. So nothing is sure, apparently. So we're still kind of in that zone where Shahrukh is still on a break. And I think the failure of Fan and the failure of Rais probably are a big reason why he's on a break. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I just heard myself and I cracked up. Like, Fan is released in 2016 and Maneesh Sharma hasn't done a single movie yet after that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's like, I think it was because he had Dilwale, which, made money, but it wasn't and this idea of, Shahrukh is over, Shahrukh is finished, has been going on for a while, right? And, but then he had like Fan that didn't work, which, whatever you say about Fan, you can clearly see the effort Shahrukh put into this, right? The money he put into this. Then Rais didn't work, which was also kind of in the making for a long time. Jab Harry Met Sally flopped. And then Zero also kind of, didn't work. So it's been a rough ride for Shahrukh for the last 2-3 years.
I think I think the reason why Fan didn't work and why Race didn't work is for the same reason, which is Shahrukh just being faced with so much unrelenting negativity and criticism and wanting to please everybody at once and make sure that he wouldn't be attacked on any front, and just trying his best to make like a movie that will work in multiple ways. So if you don't like a character study, fine, we've got action. You don't like action, fine, we've got like a small town thing. Like you don't like small town comedies, fine, like we'll find something else for you. Like everything, like he's trying to do too many things instead of just basically embracing what the genre is and just trying to make that movie.
I think there has been it's quite it is quite visible when you watch Fan that there has been some sort of an interference from Shahrukh's side to showcase a huge action scene here and there and for the climax. So that takes you out of the experience of what Fan actually is. It's this really thrilling story about this demented mental character and how unfortunately for him he looks exactly like the star he idolizes and all of that, and this whole entire dynamic should have been explored, and instead we get beats of these action scenes thrown in between, and that was probably a block, a move, not a movie making choice but more of a commercial choice.
So like if you go back and look at it, right, like this is a movie produced by Yash Raj Studios. It's directed by Maneesh Sharma, who came off of Band Baja Barat. Like he has a lot of buzz. He wanted to work with Shahrukh for a long time. I think this script was pretty much written for Shahrukh. I don't think anybody else could have done it. Maybe Amitabh, but like it wouldn't work. Like there's only these two guys that could do it. And I think Amitabh wouldn't, like, he's aged out of that idea, right? Shahrukh would be the only one. I don't think Salman or Amir could do this. And so they'd been working for a long time. They worked on the special effects. It had a lot of budget. It had a lot of buzz, but a lot of marketing. It had kind of a hook to it, young Shahrukh, CGI and stuff like that. So why is it still considered a risk? Why do you think that? Because that's a feedback I got from a lot of people. Even our friend Shahid was saying, I feel bad for SRK. Almost every time he takes a risk, it doesn't work commercially. But when he sticks to his shtick, he gets shat on critically. So it's kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place. But I just want to go back and wonder about that question. Why is Fan considered a risk, do you guys think? Is it because he doesn't have like a heroine with him? Is it because this movie doesn't have songs in it? Why do you think this feels like a risky proposition to people?
Right, all those things considered, but as well as it's kind of addressing the fact that fandom, toxic fandom, what that exactly means, and the whole, we talk about Khandaan on this, all the three Khans, and how the hysteria that they enjoy with the level of fandom that they have, and they're probably the last generation of movie stars in India to enjoy that level, because like it or hate it, but every movie star that has followed after them, they make themselves so accessible and so, like, the whole mystique about the stardom is gone. Be it Ranbir Kapoor, who is not on social media at all, even then. But anyway, coming back to the point is the whole idea of toxic fandom and the way it addresses it is that that kind of plays into the minds of the people that are we not supposed to expect anything out of our stars? And that's a big question for movie fans in India, and probably they didn't like that.
Yeah, that's a question I wanted to ask you guys too. Amrita, what do you think? Like, do you think it's because it's showing like a mirror to fandoms that people kind of balked at it? That, like, he's insulting his fan groups or something like that?
I remember when the movie came out, there was this, I can't remember who wrote it, but somebody did this giant, was it Anna Vetikar? Somebody like that. Somebody who's writing that I trust actually went out and did this reported piece where she tracked down the super fan of Shahrukh's who behaves a lot like Gaurav, actually, like he does, he's like a lookalike. So he does these lookalike things and that's how he makes his living. Like everybody knows him as Shahrukh's lookalike. And then he also keeps trying to meet Shahrukh and he never quite manages to do it, or he did, but like it wasn't like a good meeting, or like he didn't feel like Shahrukh gave him enough in return or something. And when the movie came out, he was really upset because he felt, and his friends felt, that Shahrukh had taken his story and made a movie about it and then not paid him anything or like included him in anything. And he was super hurt about it and he thought that he had been done hard by. And that is a kind of, stardom that the Khans have. And I had the same thought as you guys, that nobody else could really make this movie. Like, Amitabh probably could because he's a good enough actor to do it. But Shahrukh is uniquely suited for this role because he's a man who, from his interviews, obviously I don't know him, so I might be just projecting, but from his interviews and things, you get this feeling that he's a man who really considers himself and his stardom as two separate things. And he's always been that way. He's always talked about working for Shahrukh Inc. and how that is a different person from who he is, which is not something a lot of people might understand. And it is not something that a lot of people want to hear, I think. And this movie was such a good opportunity for a psychological thriller, like Sujoy said, because there are these moments in the film where Shahrukh is looking back into his stardom, and it's sort of like an abyss and a void, and it's, you can kind of see the toll that it's taking on him, and that final climactic state, as stupid as it is, that final bit where he's trying to explain to Gaurav that he's a human being, you can't behave like this, and then he's trying to convince Gaurav not to kill himself. Those are like really, and like Gaurav is not willing to hear. Like those are like really impactful scenes that could have contributed to something greater, I feel. But then, I guess the box office became a consideration, and then they needed to make it into like a thriller and like an action and everything. And it just sort of diluted the whole impact.
Because we do have a version of this that is a small indie kind of movie. I don't know if you guys remember in Bombay Talkies, Anurag Kashyap made Murabba.
Yeah.
Which is very, very similar to what the first part of Fan to a certain degree, right? And it's with Amitabh, where this super fan wants to give a pot of Murabba to Amitabh and the kind of struggles he goes through to finally meet him and not. But it has more of a kind of a positive ending towards it at the end, I guess. But so that movie does exist. If people want to see that, they have, maybe Bombay Talkies has kind of gone out of the radar for a lot of people. Go check that out. It does have a lot of these. If you want the small indie version of this, it exists. And the other point is what we were saying about Shahrukh making everything larger than life. This is actually a point we raised when we were talking about Paheli. That, even at that time, it could have been a small artsy ghost story, but because it was Shahrukh, it needed to be, an Oscar-worthy contender. And I don't know if this is something Shahrukh does or wants in his movies, or the filmmaker, because they're working with Shahrukh, they feel that they need a bigger canvas because it is Shahrukh. But it's a question that needs to be figured out for Shahrukh's career, because it's clearly not working, and his movies are not connecting, even if there are a lot of good elements. I do wonder though, can a Shahrukh or a Salman movie actually flop? This idea of flopping, right? I don't know if it can. It can not make as much money as they were maybe hoping to, but I think they still kind of make money. Like, they sell these satellite rights, they recoup their, like, there was even a piece about on Zero, the Anushka Sharma Katrina Kaif movie with Shahrukh, that how much money it's making and how much of a fan following it has on TV now that it's on TV. So yeah, I mean, Shahrukh has always been super business savvy. And I also think what he was trying to do with Zero and he's trying to do with Fan is showcase the capabilities of his FX studio to the world. To us, because I was watching the making of how he turned into Gaurav Chandna, and he was basically saying this technology doesn't exist. Nobody's ever done this. And it's true. It's true. Like, to the kind of amount of effort that they put in, the way they did it, it was a completely new technology. And I think probably with more fine tuning, it can probably become even better. But it was kind of just an interesting video. And I think, I don't know what Shahrukh wants. Like, like he is like a very business savvy kind of person. But I imagine he still wants to be loved, right? That's always been a thing for Shahrukh, that he wants to be loved by the audiences, but he also kind of distances himself from it. So it's kind of an interesting contrast. What I also thought was this idea of, having almost a pilgrimage to the house of the actor, Will this exist for Ranveer Singh? Will this exist for Varun Dhawan? Like, that coming out in the morning at 11 and, waving your hand at the audiences. Like, it's what you're saying, about accessibility, Sujoy. That, if you can see them come in and out of gyms and airports the whole time, like, do you really then want to, wait for hours on end in front of a house like you do for Amitabh or Rajnikant or Salman Khan,
Ranveer will show up at your house and have like chai with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is not even a joke. That was a tweet.
No.
Yeah.
That was the real thing that happened.
Yeah. I mean, even Sonam Kapoor invites you to her photo shoots. I mean, we hear a lot of these stories, and I don't know how this happens. Like, I'm not one that incessantly tweets or replies to actors. I usually don't even tag them when I'm, talking about stuff. But there are a lot of people that I see that an actor will tweet, and the first tweet you will see as a reply will be these people, and they don't necessarily have a huge following, but Ranveer will show up and have Parle-G cookies with tea at their house. So, which I don't see Amitabh doing necessarily, right? So yeah, it does feel kind of an end of an era thing. So maybe it makes sense that Shahrukh is also in a transition because we as an audience are in a transition. It's interesting. It's interesting. Let's get into the movie a little bit, no? It really sucks to live in these small towns.
He's not living in a small town, by the way. He lives in Old Delhi.
Is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It sucks in Old Delhi then.
I was thinking about that when you were talking about like Dan Baja Barat and how it's like started the small town thing, and I was like, that's not a small town. That's Delhi, dude.
I get, but you know what I mean, right? It doesn't feel like.
I think Asim just doesn't like.
People from Janakpuri are up in arms right now.
Like, I'll give me cash or like Das or like Mission Istanbul, that's what I want. After Dream Girls and Fan, I'll go watch Cash again or something.
Like, between Delhi and Bombay is always a thing, which city is better. And like, Asim is thoroughly like, Bombay.
Well, I guess being like from Karachi, I guess there's probably like more of a similarity between Mumbai and Karachi, like there is between Delhi and Lahore, I guess. But yeah, probably people don't want to hear that, but I'm pretty sure it's true. So it's interesting because the first 20 minutes of this movie is just kind of getting to know Gaurav, and I think for us to get used to the CGI, it's like, like, oh, he looks like this and he doesn't look like Shahrukh there, and it does like take us at least 20-30 minutes to kind of get used and get to know this person of Gaurav. And Shahrukh, I mean, he's pretty darn amazing though in this, right? Like he feels like a real character. Like even the way he's dressed, like at the first fight he has in his cyber cafe, like that shirt he's wearing that has like sleeves of another patchwork and then beige in front. I can clearly see people wearing that, like a terrible shirt that they bought somewhere at a hawker's market.
So here's the idea. When they showed like the initial teaser came out, like Shahrukh is playing this younger version of somebody who is like a doppelganger. So when it comes to like the juniors or the junior artists of Bollywood actors who live all their lives trying to mimic the bigger actors, they only look like their originals from a certain angle. And the way when you change the perspective, and the whole illusion falls off, right? Yeah. And that's what they've tried to create. The head is bigger than the body, and even if they try to mimic the body language and everything, the voice is a bit thinner, and they've all tried to recreate that, and it works spectacularly. It also works on a level of making you feel very uneasy. It makes you full of discomfort at looking at this character, and that works. And Shahrukh obviously just totally dissolves into this role.
Yeah, he just seems like energetic and like smaller, and the way he walks, it's different. And then, but when he transforms into Aryan at the talent show, you can really, I mean, it's so much effort that he put into this. I find it really quite good. I was surprised that a lot of people, even like huge Shahrukh fans, just could not take that face. Like they were like, that face, that's CGI. And I really didn't have that much trouble. I thought that the special effects and the CGI were still quite good, and rewatching it yesterday, I thought they actually hold up pretty much.
So somebody on Twitter was complaining about how taken aback they were when they realized that Gaurav was plunging into darkness, like it was not mentioned at all in the later half of the movie. But I thought they were like laying pebbles all across the way that this is the kind of progression into darkness that he is going into, like one after another. You can already sense the creepy character that he has, this really dark Stan level of fandom that he has in his heart. Like it is all consuming, and it only can lead into something as dark as to what happened to him.
But I think also we know these people, right? To a certain degree, I don't live in India or Pakistan, but I remember people being diehard fans of, there's been documentaries about people that, mold their entire life like Shahrukh or Salman. They get the bracelet, they get the haircut and stuff like that. Yeah. They walk like, and by the way, if any of you lookalikes are listening to this podcast, none of y'all look like the stars. I'm just gonna burst your bubble. You don't look like him. Like none of you do, and it's just a delusion that, and I like that also in the movie. It's certainly addressed to us a few times where Gaurav so much believes that he can, his resemblance is so strong that he can just walk in, or he can just show his face and, see how much I look like you. And especially when there's that confrontation scene in the jail when Aryan and Gaurav meet for the first time, and Aryan's face is like half horror, half like, are you delusional? And like it must be so weird for these guys looking at their lookalikes and not seeing themselves at all, but like just like a haircut that's supposed to be like theirs, but it's like different texture of hair, or they're always wearing glasses because they never, when they take off the glasses, they actually never look like them, or a certain way of walking, or like accessories. It must be so creepy, man. And like even that bigger, I think it was on Outlook or something like that, where they were following this guy that was based on it. I felt he never looked like Shahrukh at all. And it's just this big delusion that they're part of, and their fans or their, chahne wale are part of. And it was even interesting in the talent show where, his parents are helping him. They're the one, pulling the strings literally when he's doing this, with the patache and all that kind of thing, where it's a delusion where everybody's kind of part of, and we just kind of accept it. And it's a weird thing, and it's very unsettling.
I honestly really mad at people who are like Shahrukh Khan act even after this movie came out, because I'm just like, you can't do this movie and then come out at the other end and be like Shahrukh Khan act, because it's a tour de force. Like it's so perfect. Like the way that, I mean, Gaurav, like his performance as Gaurav is obviously the showy one, but his performance as Aryan is what really sticks in my head. Like the horror, the unease, the helplessness, like everything is really good.
And what I also like about Aryan is he's not Shahrukh, right? Like he creates that difference between, there's so much of Shahrukh, and obviously we're supposed to think of Shahrukh, and they blur the line, but clearly the way Shahrukh is playing Aryan is not the way Shahrukh is. And I like that bit. And it was also funny how at the start they're blurring those lines by, they're showing a lot of interviews of Shahrukh when he was younger, but then they also had footage of just Aryan, like, the movies he's been in or the stage shows he's in, and they look like much low level productions compared to what Shahrukh has done. So it's really super interesting to see how he does it, and I think it's amazing, and just kind of teetering back to where he's like, maybe Dilli ka launda, that kind of thing, which I mean, Shahrukh has that, but he's so much above that now,
What's also interesting is, as you said, the whole deconstruction of the star machine that operates not maybe it's like a parallel of how Shahrukh operates, but in this frame, it's Aryan Khanna's, star vehicle, the entourage that follows him and maintains his persona. What goes into making this persona intact? What happens at a wedding dance ceremony? What happens? The securities that go into, and how it's maintained, the whole operation team, and the kind of embarrassment that he has to feel when a guest, just mentions that they spent a bomb on them, and he has to just put a smiling face and go back and work like a professional. So even at that level of stardom, he has to go through the grind to do that. It's really, it's almost makes me cringe, but also at the same time, how brilliant it is for Shahrukh to own that.
Yeah, it definitely plays with this idea that a lot of people like despise stars, but they also love them, it's a very weird, and you also have it with the Bhutiani character, which probably, Shahrukh has been through that probably many times, right? He's worked, and like he was the first to dance at weddings, and he's probably been through so many embarrassments and stuff like that, because where they feel like, because I've hired you, now I own you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then also with the police people, like the police officers, right? On the one hand, he has so much power that he can get somebody jailed, but then the contrast of when he's in trouble, he has no power whatsoever, he becomes like almost like a what was that word? I was thinking of when we were watching Sarfarosh, and we had Nasruddin's character, and they just call him a Gavaiya. That's what I was thinking about. Like, he's really just a nautanki actor kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they become a scapegoat in terms of, when you fall into trouble, then the law wants to make an example out of you without even ensuring that who is at fault.
Yeah.
So basically, I thought that the whole sequence in the in the British jail kind of was a callback to him being detained in American airports by immigration officials.
Yeah.
You know, that same level of like powerlessness, and then him being bailed out by the consulate, and then realizing just how little power he has to fight that kind of thing.
Yeah. And just cops being racist, right? Like that's like also just real. Cops are fucking racist. I hate cops.
What's unsettling is, you know, Gaurav is just an old Delhi boy who hasn't done much in life, right? And just with 1 year of time, how much resources he's gained to be able to access through all these locations and, you know, do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. I mean, I think we want to get into second half because I think that's where the issues were. But I want to like talk a little bit about Gaurav first. Like, I think the movie, and I think a lot of people were talking about this in a way. It's like what we were talking about with Dreamgirls, right? It's like Dreamgirl. It's like you lose the movie when you lose sympathy with Gaurav, right? Because.
But are we expecting to sympathize with Gaurav in the first place, though? I think that's totally up to audience expectations, isn't it? So we think that a character like Gaurav needs redemption, but for me, I know that he's not going to get any redemption, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, but like I think that's where the marketing kind of went sideways because they didn't signal it early enough, you know? So I think when people went in, and especially it's called Fan, and like Shahrukh is talking about like how much he loves his fans and like he wouldn't be anything without his fans. And so everyone goes like, oh, it's going to be like, and the word in the trade was that this is a love letter to his fans and stuff like that. Like that's how they were presenting the
whole marketing was with the Jabra Fan soundtrack, which is dancing. You know, it's a very positive vibe.
And they were asking people, are you a Jabra fan? Then like, you know, like send us your video or whatever. And then the movie came out and everybody was like, wait, what? You think we're going to murder you? Like, what is happening? So I think that was like a shock to the system because people weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
And also because see, this is the difference between, like, we keep talking about, like, Hollywood movies. Like, why don't we make movies, like, in Hollywood? Like, why is it, like, a Hollywood movie like this? And the thing is, like, the difference lies in the audience and, like, audience expectations and audience training, to be honest. Because the audience is trained to accept a certain amount of spoon feeding from the filmmakers, a certain amount of explanations and, you know, just have everything just underlined and then fed to them. And then suddenly a movie comes along and says, well, you got to make a few adjustments and like make a few leaps of faith. And they're just like, wait, what? I can make the leap of faith that like, you know, like in Karan Arjun, where like the children are reincarnated and come back because that is our Sanskriti. But I can't really make the leap of faith where like Shahrukh is saying that he loves me and then he then discovers that I'm a psycho. Like that's too much for me.
Yeah. So then it does come to that idea that, you know, he was accusing the fans, or the fans were feeling bad about watching this movie, where you would want to feel good after coming a movie. You almost feel like you're getting punished for being a fan. And I don't think like that idea about do we feel bad for Gaurav or not? Like, do you feel he deserves redemption at the end, which he doesn't also get, right? So it's a tough one. Like there's a point where, and I think that point is different for everybody, is like where do you kind of figure out that Gaurav is actually dangerous, right? Because talent show, fine, chalo, you know, his house is filled with his pictures, chalo, man liya, you know, that kind of thing. And then the train thing happens, right? Ratlam station, you know. If he just fell off the train, he could have met Geet walking the Ratlam ki galiyan, and everything would have been fine. But that is kind of like, that is maybe the first point where you're like, maybe, you know, maybe this is not a good guy, but still you can accept it. And slowly they ramp it up to the point where he's walking into Mannat and threatening the kids and stuff like that. And I think
even before that, he's like up in arms against the rival actor, right, in the vanity van, and then trying to punch his face out and threatening him.
Yeah.
That's toxic fandom, right?
Yeah.
And only a psycho guy would do that, go to that length.
And also that Sid Kapoor character is kind of interesting because, we mentioned that, Bhutiani is probably based on real things and, fandom is based on real things. I wonder who Sid Kapoor is based on because there's a bit of Salman Khan, a bit of Hrithik Roshan, a bit of
Shirish
Kundar. There's like a lot of amalgam going on there. So, it's kind of interesting that they created a character, but it's the only character that clearly isn't based on one person in a way, right? So,
I did wonder if he was also partly based on Arjun Rampal because that whole hitting on Gauri thing, I can't think of anybody else who would hit on Gauri.
That happened too.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, allegedly.
No, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah, it's it was just interesting the way. Yeah, I think that's probably. But that Sid Kapoor is also the part where I think a lot of people lose it. At that moment, the movie becomes a bit preposterous, right? That some guy could just go into a van and then beat up this guy, and it's and then film it and then going viral. And also the thing is, nothing happens with it. We never hear back from Sid Kapoor again, And it just seems like a very kind of, and I think that, and then immediately after that chase scene that happens where Gaurav is parkouring everywhere. I think that is I think for a lot of people is ye kya chutyapa, that's where they kind of break.
It was definitely for me because I was he went from a guy who could barely fight off three big dudes and then suddenly he's just leaping about.
And touching cops.
Yeah, he's suddenly Yamakasi. So it's weird. And I think it's one thing also I noticed with the CGI, he almost has the eyes of Gollum, especially at that Mannat scene where he's looking up, feels like he suddenly becomes my precious, that kind of thing. His eyes become so settingly wide. And I know they added a few elements, apparently his face is a bit of Brad Pitt in there. Maybe the eyes were Gollum, so I think that psychotic behavior. But I was also thinking how weird must it be for all of those extras shooting that scene, because clearly Shahrukh is standing next to them. It must be, and they're look in front of you, do not look at Shahrukh, right? How weird was that be? And having been around Shahrukh smells really, really nice. So it must again be, you need to not smell that way and you not look that way. So it must be weird for people. So I think, that preposterousness is really, hits that point at the intermission time because they keep ramping things up. So we have that face-off between Aryan and Gaurav that we talked about, but then we have a 1 year break, right? Gaurav sells his store and he takes money. He does parkour training and he does strength training. He learns English. He learns a lot of things to prepare that plan that he wants to. And I kind of appreciated that to a certain degree because I know that people are saying, it's preposterous that he's doing these things, but he did have a year to prepare. And these people are crazy. I don't know if you've ever, have you ever beat up a nerd when you were in young? Okay, I'm revealing things about my high school life. But when you beat up a nerd, suddenly they get a lot of strength and they won't let go. And you need 4 or 5 guys to kind of subdue them. They go Sunki at a moment. And I feel this is Gaurav's moment where he just goes Sunki, and then there's no stopping him. So I can understand what's going on there.
There is this moment, right, when Shahrukh's assistant says, sorry, bol de Sunki hai. And then Aryan says, to main kya hu? That's oh.
That was cool though.
Yeah, that was so cool.
That's so cool. Can I also say, Shahrukh looks really good in a tux. That was in Dubrovnik when he was chasing him with the bike. Wearing that tux, I was dude, man, that guy looks so freaking cool, man. He's born to wear a tux.
He's born to be Bond, the next Bond.
Oh,
yeah.
Shahrukh so cool, man. I had trouble rewatching the at the Bhutiani wedding, the harassment scene. It's so creepy the way it's done, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like fast forward. I didn't want to watch it. It was like a bit.
Yeah.
I do like how the chase scene is also like this, like, you know, because it's not. On the one hand, we're playing with this idea of fan and star, but then we're also playing with Shahrukh and the career of Shahrukh. And, you know, these meta references that they put in, which for a few people were annoying. They were saying there's too many of them and you just stop it. But I kind of appreciated it, and especially with the chase scene in Dubrovnik, which is, again, preposterous. Like, the way and the, like, how high concept it goes. It's great stunt work. It's great location, well executed action set piece, but it didn't fit in this movie, I feel, you know?
No, it's totally a different movie altogether when, you know, two professional fighters are fighting against each other rather than a movie star and somebody who's had 1 year to prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but I did like the fact that it was a callback to Dar and that chase scene to a certain degree, right? Like, I definitely had that vibe where Sunny Deol is chasing and he grabs him from behind and he keeps running and he doesn't show his face. It was like, I felt the way it was shot, the way it was done, it really reminded me of that to a certain degree.
And then the next thing is the press conference. He gets caught and Gaurav appears in the study room.
Yeah. Also, his show gets cancelled, which was also kind of interesting because this happened before the Me Too movement happened, right? So it was just interesting to see that, you know, all fans would cancel him, which clearly is not reality whatsoever, as we have seen.
Yeah.
You know, even
like
if
Shahrukh has more faith in fans than actual fans.
Yeah. It was just something I think about. Just imagine, you know, like if some scandal had happened. Although also the scandal was quite weird at the Bhutiani wedding because the press had showed up immediately. And I don't know. I feel that the press usually doesn't believe the women that are accusing these stars. I don't know. Like, you know, so it's just weird to see his whole stadium was empty because of it. I did like that. That's the moment where Aryan is kind of looking at his own face in the mirror, and this like 30-second shot where he's just like, you know, looking at his wrinkles and he's kind of smoothing out his face. I just thought that was kind of interesting because, you know, but it's an interesting shot, but it doesn't give us more insight into what's going on with Aryan at that moment. But it was an interesting visual way of storytelling.
This is why I think like Shahrukh ought to make like a Netflix like short limited series, because you can see that he has a concept, you know, he has like an idea of storytelling that is entirely unsuited to mainstream Bollywood.
Yeah.
But he can never make that movie because he's Shahrukh Khan. But maybe he can do it on a streaming platform.
Yeah. It almost feels like that. Who was that? Wait, let me just Google it because there was this joke about this Italian clown.
Pagliacci.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of that. You know, he goes to the doctor, I'm so depressed, and the doctor says, oh, there's this amazing show that you should go watch of the clown and he'll make you laugh, and the guy goes, I am that clown. It just makes me think of Shahrukh in that shot, you know. Poor guy, he's just like trapped in our expectation, his own expectations. I think he also has this way where he's like, I am King Khan, you know, he loves being King Khan, but clearly he wants to do other things and he's just stuck here, and I don't think he can get out of it. I wonder. And then it keeps ramping up. He enters Mannat, which actually I really appreciated that wasn't Mannat, that Shahrukh didn't let the movie makers film in his own home. I kind of thought that was cool, that he wants to still protect his home. And
he actually does have stalkers from time to time. Like he's talked about it before. Like in Anupama Chopra's book, he talks about this woman who would show up at all his shoots and outside his house for years, claiming that he was her son. And this was like, like right after his mother had died, and she was like convinced that he was her son, and she would bring like all these proofs or something, and she would just tell everybody like, this is my son, but he's not talking to me, and he would get upset because it's such a, like, his mother had just been dead for like a couple of years at that point, and he was just like, stop it.
Yeah, that's
So
terrible.
probably the last thing he wants is to like put like visuals in the heads of people who probably are trying to break into his house.
But I think, like, having seen like a few times, I think he shot that AIB video that they did in his house. It does look similar.
Yeah, so
like,
that is his. So he has a tower behind his house, from what I understand. So I have like advertising friends in Mumbai, and what they say is that he has this separate building that is not the Mannat building, but it's like an office building sort of a thing. And it's not an office building, like I don't know, it's some sort of annex. And over there, like, you can go and you can shoot your advertisements and your interviews and everything, and that basically allows him not to spend his time in traffic.
Right.
So instead, everybody goes to Shahrukh rather than Shahrukh coming to you.
Right. Okay, that's pretty cool.
But they go.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody deserves it, it's Shahrukh, man. Like you would think this is like megalomaniac, but it's Shahrukh. Like I'm like totally fine with it.
I'm totally on board.
Yeah, I'm on board. Do whatever you want, dude. Your life
Like,
must be
you
nice.
have a roller coaster riding you straight from your bedroom to the next building. I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with anything. Like, fly with a jet, get like a Tesla tunnel built by Elon Musk himself, who laid every brick. I'm fine. It's Shahrukh. I'll just, allow
Yeah.
it is like, but that scene is like proper horror movie level at that time, right? Like, as a dad, like, like, it is so scary. Like, this guy getting into your house and you not being able to do anything about it. But it's always like slightly preposterous too, that you think that, there's no panic button or no security in the house. But it's scary. It's scary for, the gory surrogate that's being played.
Yeah. Like, that whole scene, how it plays out, I really want to watch Maneesh Sharma make a thriller like that, like a out-and-out serial killer kind of a thriller. And it's a long take scene, right, where Gaurav takes centerfold attention and he's just roaming around the study and just, with the monologue. It's just fantastic to watch. Just, Shahrukh play and fly with whatever skills he has.
Yeah. Did you like that horror scene? Or because I ask you, Amrita, I'm asking because for a lot of people that scene explicitly didn't work.
Oh no, I like this.
Yeah. And yeah, then it's pretty much the climax of the movie. We're at the end of it, and it's like Shahrukh taking his own back and finding Gaurav and where he lives. It was again a bit weird that he's going alone at it when there was no need. And I think those are the things that people get annoyed about. But I also think the movie has lost them way before by then,
Yeah.
right? So then it's just getting annoyed, and everything is annoying you. Then
what's more kind of takes me out of the experience is, Shahrukh or Aryan Khanna in this movie is such a huge superstar, and he would, not care about putting himself in danger on the rooftops of Dubrovnik or on the streets of Old Delhi, running through traffic and all of this. He would have to deal with mobs, but he's also dealing with Indian traffic.
Yeah.
And he would, there would be no way he would survive that.
Yeah. Also, his shoes have no tread. Like, I don't know how you can run on without slipping everywhere. So that's just one thing else. I mean, he does, like again, Shahrukh is really good with the scene with the parents, I feel, because, he's so angry of what Gaurav did, and then even the phone call doesn't go the way Aryan wants it to. He wants it, he wants to scare Gaurav. He wants him to come down and face him. And Gaurav makes it even more creepier, talking about his daughter being cute. Like, I can feel like Aryan just wanted to go into his room and just strangle the hell out of this guy. But then he comes back to his parents and his mom says, usko zyada marna mat, And Aryan's face, Shahrukh, how he is with moms. He's like, he's still their son and I can't do it. I can't do what I want to do. And that, I think Shahrukh plays that really well. And, his dad is even at that point like, why didn't you just meet him for 5 minutes, So his dad is still kind of being that, fan privilege, like, it's your fault almost when it's not Aryan's fault. Clearly, it's not Aryan's fault, any of this. So, yeah, and then the talent show happens, which I don't know if that whole sequence worked for me and the whole setup to that. I think people would see it. Like, I can understand that people in Dubrovnik or Madame Tussauds can maybe get confused that Gaurav is Aryan because it's a white audience or, like the security guards are not into Indian movies and all that kind of thing. But all these people in Inderve are not figuring out that that's Aryan. That also seems kind of a bit of a stretch to me, I must say. Yeah, I don't know. That part didn't work for me. And then basically another rooftop chase scene and fight scene. Gaurav falls to his death, like Hans Gruber in Die Hard. And we're done. And I don't know, like that last 20 minutes especially, I don't know how that sits with me as a audience member. And even for like being a Shahrukh fan, even for being somebody that was looking forward to this, having a positive viewing first time, liking the movie a second time, I still don't know what I should feel after these 20-30 minutes of the climax.
I think that last 3-5 minutes, that really worked for me. The part where he suddenly, like Gaurav, you can see that switch fall into place where he suddenly looks at Aryan and goes like, but you haven't apologized yet.
Yeah.
Maybe tumne sorry nahi bola. From that moment onwards, that last part, that really worked for me because then, it's that him, like killing himself and like telling him that, this is at least one way that I will forever be etched in your consciousness and I'll always be like connected to you. And then like Aryan's horror at like the extent to which Gaurav is willing to go and the horror of watching what is unfolding and experiencing what he's experiencing. And then, just watching his face, but like not his face falling down. I mean, it's so creepy. And then later on, when he's on top of his rooftop and he's waving to the crowds and then he sees Gaurav and he realizes that it's true. Like he is connected to Gaurav for the rest of his life. And he'll always see Gaurav in a crowd. Wherever, however long he lives, and how it's really, really creepy and troubling. And I really liked that part. But all the other parts, yeah, you're right. Why?
Because I'm even unsure about this idea about having your name tied to Aryan's name forever. I'm not sure if it played enough because we've seen enough of these things happen, right? Like, stalkers that go way too far, even people that have killed their stars, like, John Lennon, for example. But you don't know their names. I don't know the name of these people that kill these people or attack these people or these stalkers. There have been so many. So I don't know if that core idea is weak but for me, that Mannat scene at the end works much better than the death of Gaurav. That idea that he's still seeing him everywhere, that really worked for me. But
yeah,
I just think that the movie isn't sure if we need to feel sympathetic towards Gaurav or not, and because it's not clear, we're not clear, and because obviously we're also fans of Shahrukh, all of those things, those factors together don't sit well. And I appreciated that it's not clear cut in this movie, but maybe it needed to be a bit more clear cut, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe it was too ambiguous. I don't know. I having watched it a couple of times now, I'm still not sure what line the movie wants us to draw. And I think that's kind of unsettling for a lot of people and why maybe it wasn't a big hit to a certain degree. Because you do need that clarity. You do need that spoon feeding Amrita you were talking about. Sujay, what about you? What did you think about the climax and the ending of it?
I don't know.
No, because you were talking about it earlier and I cut you off, so I thought you had maybe like a thought that you still want to do.
No, I totally concur with what Amrita said. It brings it back together that Gaurav hasn't evolved in the 1 year that he took break. It was a gap year, but in the gap year he went off and acquired all these skills. But internally he's screaming out loud that his senior hasn't apologized for the wrong that he's done to him, and he's still there. It doesn't matter if his parents are involved. It doesn't matter if the girl he is in love with is involved. He is only about that apology, and uski sui wahi pe atki hui hai.
Yeah.
And you see that, and that's like they didn't cop out with that, and they didn't make his character redeemable and all of that, and he goes on to lead a successful life. Actions have consequences, and they went with that, and I really like that they went with it. Obviously, what you said is also true, that they couldn't decide what the tone of this movie is trying to tell us, whether Gaurav should have been redeemable or not, or is it okay for us to feel sympathetic towards Gaurav or not?
Yeah, let's start wrapping it up, but I want to ask you the final question here, unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about, but what to make this a movie a hit, right? What would the 3 things be that you would change in this?
Oh, wow.
I don't think this movie is designed to be a hit. Like, it's not... Like, from the beginning, I think, like, Shahrukh also knew that. Like, he... In the final round of promotions, he was talking about how this is a small movie, it's a niche movie, like, blah, blah, blah. So it's not designed to be a blockbuster hit, I don't think. And I think all the liberties and all the things that people didn't like about this movie come from the fact that they were trying to make it into a mainstream hit. And I think it should have just remained a niche product.
Right. So it's not necessarily like add a song, or you think that the whole premise of it is the budget and the premise don't match in a way.
I think like the premise of it as like a very like it's a Dear Zindagi kind of movie.
Right.
And then they tried and made it into like
Dawn.
like an Amir Khan kind of movie. Yeah.
Dawn.
And I was just like, no, don't do it.
Sujoy, man, what would you change? How would you make it a hit?
I think the promotion should have been more clever about not going blasé with Jabra fan.
Right.
Yeah, that totally threw people off.
Right.
Like they thought that this Gaurav character is going to meet his senior guy, and they live happily ever after.
Right. I think I like the same thing like what you guys are saying. I think definitely the action scenes should have been toned down. I think it didn't need to be like Dawn, it didn't need to be Mission Impossible, which again, I know Shahrukh likes to do that. He wants to be like, James Bond, but in this movie it didn't really work. And also then it breaks from what Gaurav is as a character. He's being this small time boy, and then he's also like this master in disguise, he's also, like parkouring everywhere. And I think that first scene where he's running away from the cops wasn't even that necessary, right? They could have done Dar, where he's just running in the streets. Why did he need to jump from one balcony to the other? Doesn't make sense to me. Even the scene in Dubrovnik, they could have had, more security or played that a bit better, Also the idea that Aryan why doesn't he want to tell people about what's going on? He kind of keeps it hidden for a very, very long time until it also becomes quite a bit of a scandal. That story beat I didn't understand. I did like that he had kind of almost forgotten about Gaurav in that year. That year that he took a break. So when he calls him senior, it all comes flashing back to him. I was like, oh, this guy again, So I did appreciate that. But yeah, it's a weird one. I do think it was meant to be a hit. I think he was hoping it would make like 200, 300 crore and be slightly different. But yeah, I think it was a few strategic mistakes that they made here, unfortunately. And I'm not sure if Maneesh Sharma is over it already. He's not made a movie since. I do think he's making something with Ranveer Singh, which has like an unpronounceable name. I was kind of looking at it. Let me just find it. Where he did produce Sui Dhaga. Oh, Jayesh Bhai Jordar. They're filming apparently. Oh no, he's not directing even. Yeah, so he's not directing anything at all. So yeah, it must have been a very disappointing thing because I know he'd been working on this for a long time. So yeah, that kind of sucks because he's a very talented filmmaker, I think. So I hope he kind of gets out of his slum, and I hope Shahrukh does too. Yeah. We want to see Shahrukh more on screen and more kind of confident in what he's doing. I feel also there's just a lack of confidence in his movies that he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. And yeah, I just want more good movies with Shahrukh.
Let's all hope so.
Amrita, any final thoughts?
I really feel like, if we're still doing the podcast, say 20 years from now, then we should come back and talk about it then.
Yeah.
Because I think we'll have more to talk about it. We'll have more context. And I think, we'll have a better understanding of Shahrukh.
Yeah.
Because this really is a movie about Shahrukh. It's about Shahrukh, the star. And, it's designed to be a psychological study of like what stardom does to a person.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Like, would you recommend this to somebody who's totally new to Bollywood and doesn't really know about Shahrukh the star or what stardom in Bollywood means?
No, I don't think so. Because like when I introduce people to Bollywood, I tend to go for something very traditional. So in the old days, it used to be Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, like that was like always like a good way to explain to people what, because Bollywood, like I've said this before to you guys, but Bollywood is not really the industry, it's also a style of filmmaking. So like I don't think Fan is Bollywood. It's a Bollywood film. I think Fan is a Hindi film, which is a different thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind actually. I think people can understand it. I think which is always surprising because so many people have their first movie was Om Shanti Om, and you would think that Om Shanti Om is not a movie that without any Bollywood knowledge you would appreciate, but people do, and they can just they can always kind of come back and then figure out that this was actually about a reference to that. This was actually this, but as just kind of an obsessed fan being, with this kind of, obsessed with this star, I think that core story is something that's pretty universal. And I think a lot of people can understand. And I think also the special effects adds kind of a layer to it, which people can find.
Also, the whole format of having no songs in the movie, I think it makes it more accessible.
Yeah. So there's elements to it, but I think the inconsistencies we are finding in the movie will also be something that doesn't sit well with non-Bollywood viewers. I think there's something broken in the the base model, in the foundation of it, and I don't think that can be set right with all of these cosmetic things around it, unfortunately. But I also think what Amrita is saying is bang on, that this movie is about Shahrukh, and Shahrukh is in a transition phase, and I really think this failure affected whatever next Shahrukh we will be getting. And I think when we're in that phase, or in the end of that phase for Shahrukh, then when we look back to Fan, I think that might be an interesting thing. But I also still think there's enough wrong in the foundation that even at that point we'll say it's interesting, but it's not necessarily good. So I think that's kind of where, unfortunately, Fan will be stuck for everybody. By the way, out of our poll, which had Dhoom 3, Judwa, Prem Ratan Dhan Payot, Duplicate, Dawn, Ravan, and Fan, is this the movie that you guys wanted to watch the most? I know, Sujoy, you wanted to, right? This is the one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amrita, was there another one that you wanted to vote for more or get more votes for?
I think I voted for Duplicate.
Yeah, me too. I've actually never seen Duplicate. I was hoping Duplicate might win it with Juhi Magic, but it didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen Duplicate in like 25 years or something. 25 years, something like that. So I wanted to see it.
Yeah. So, you know what we'll do for the next episode? We'll go back. Let's go back and watch some older Khan movies. We've done a lot of recent ones and a lot of good ones. Maybe go back and watch some terrible ones. I think it'll give kind of a new energy to the show that we haven't revisited in a while. Let's do that. We'll put a poll up on social and people can vote for it. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at 9E3K.
Yeah. And Sujoy is going to India, so if there's any lookalikes of Sujoy or any like obsessed fans, you can probably find him there, right? I'm on at Asim Bernie. You can follow us at YouPodcasting. And also thanks for all the new listeners that have found us on Hubhopper. Apparently we're very popular. So if you're listening to us from Hubhopper, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Everybody else, leave us a review, leave us a rating. It takes like literally 2 seconds. It really helps us. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episodes. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.